The first thing that tipped me off wasn't the words. It was the vitamins. They were sitting in the ceramic bowl by the door, the one meant for keys and loose change, right next to a hotel keycard. Prenatal vitamins. Still sealed. Expensive brand. The kind Leah used to mock on late-night commercials. Keys, coins, pregnancy. That's how my evening started. Leah stood in the kitchen with her arms crossed, barefoot on the cold tile like she was bracing for impact. She'd already rehearsed this. I could tell by the way she didn't fidget. No wasted motion. When someone plans a confession, they stop being human and start being a script. "We need to talk," she said. I leaned against the counter and nodded like this was a meeting about utilities or paint colors. Inside, my brain was inventorying exits. "Okay," I said. "Let's talk." She exhaled, slow and theatrical. "I'm pregnant." I waited. That pause was important. It told her I wasn't playing along yet. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "And?" I said. Her jaw tightened. There it was. The turn. "It's not yours," she said. Then, after half a second, like she was dropping a second plate on purpose, "But a real man would step up and raise him." That sentence landed with a soft sound. Not a crash, more like a knife going into wood. I stared at her, then glanced at the bowl by the door again. Vitamins, keycard, evidence doesn't shout, it just sits there, patient. "I guess," I said slowly. "I'm not a real man." She blinked. That wasn't in the script. "You don't mean that," she said. "You're emotional right now." "No," I said. "I'm actually very calm. That's how I know this is done." Her phone buzzed on the counter. She flipped it face down too fast. Rookie mistake. "Is it Grant?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Say his name," I said. Silence stretched. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a car alarm chirped once and fell silent, like it knew better than to get involved. "Grant," she said. I nodded. "Thought so." Her phone buzzed again. She picked it up this time and hit speaker without looking at me. "Hey," she said softly. I told him. Grant's voice filled the kitchen, warm, confident, the kind that worked well with microphones and stage lights. "Cal," he said, "man to man, let's not do anything we can't take back." I smiled. "You already did." Leah shot me a look. "Grant is willing to be involved. We can figure this out like adults." "Sure," I said. "Adults usually start by lying to their spouse and finishing inside someone else." She flinched. Grant cleared his throat. "Leah's parents don't need to be dragged into this," he said. "They're traditional." That made me laugh. Just once. Short and sharp. "Oh," I said. "They absolutely do." Leah grabbed her phone and hit FaceTime. Elias Weller's face appeared a second later, tight-lipped, silver-haired, framed by a wall of crosses and certificates. The man looked like judgment with a mortgage. "What's going on?" he asked. Leah started crying on cue. "Dad, Cal is overreacting." I stepped forward and placed a sealed envelope on the counter between us. "I'm not," I said. "And tomorrow, you'll all understand why." Leah stared at the envelope. Her confidence cracked just a little. "What is that?" she asked. I met her eyes. Proof. And for the first time that night, she didn't look in control. The copy shop smelled like toner and bad decisions. I stood at the counter while a woman named Mara stamped papers with the bored precision of someone who'd seen every version of heartbreak there was. "You understand this doesn't mean immediate removal," she said, sliding the forms back to me. "It's notice. Clean. Legal." "That's all I want," I said. When I got home, Leah was on the couch, phone pressed to her ear. She hung up when she saw the papers. "What is that?" she asked, even though she already knew. "Eviction notice," I said. 30 days. "You can't do this," she said. I'm pregnant. Not with my kid, I said. That changes the math. She stood up fast. My parents will destroy you. Your parents, I said, are about to get an email. She lunged for my phone. I stepped aside. No struggle, no drama, just distance. Don't, she said. Please. I handed her the papers. Pack what's yours, leave what's mine. Grant can help you. Her face twisted. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. No, I'm ending it. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't answer. I opened my email, attached the file, and hit send. Subject line, truth. Leah watched the screen like it might explode. You just ruined my life, she whispered. I grabbed my keys from the bowl, left the vitamins where they were. No, I said. I just stopped paying for the lie. And as I stepped out the door, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. You think this is over? I smiled to myself. It was just getting started. The parking lot outside the lab looked like every other medical plaza in the city. Low concrete, faded arrows, the kind of place where people come hoping for answers and leave with paperwork. I parked at the far end, not because I was nervous, but because distance gives you time to think. I sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. Not praying, not rehearsing speeches, just breathing and noticing how quiet it felt when your life stops pretending to be normal. The lab doors slid open with a polite hiss. Inside, the air smelled clean in that aggressive, chemical way. A woman at the front desk glanced at her screen. Cal Rourke? That's me. She checked my ID twice. Good sign. Then she disappeared through a door and came back with a sealed envelope, thick enough to feel heavy even before I touched it. Sign here. I did. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me. I turned to leave and almost walked straight into Grant Halden. He was smiling. Of course he was. That same stage smile, polished and easy, like nothing bad ever stuck to him for long. Cal, he said, didn't expect to see you here? I stepped to the side, keeping the envelope tight against my ribs. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. He glanced at the envelope. Leah worried you might do something impulsive. I came for paper, I said, not fists. He laughed softly, like we were sharing a joke. Look, man, this doesn't have to be ugly. I leaned in just enough for him to hear me. It already is. You just haven't felt it yet. His smile thinned. You send that to her parents, you're burning bridges you might need later. I don't cross bridges that lead back to you. His hand twitched toward the envelope. I stepped back instantly, clean, calm. The receptionist looked up. Grant noticed. He pulled his hand away and raised both palms like he was the reasonable one. See? He said loudly. This is what I'm talking about. You're angry. I smiled. No, I'm finished. I walked out. He didn't follow. In the car, I opened the envelope. One line, clear, no ambiguity, no mercy, probability of paternity, 0.0%. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was final. My phone buzzed before I even started the engine. Leah, where are you? Leah, my dad wants to talk. Leah, please. I drove straight to Elias Weller's house. His place sat behind wrought iron gates and manicured hedges, the kind of property built to intimidate without saying a word. Inside, everything was polished wood and framed verses. Faith as interior design. Elias sat behind his desk. Leah stood to the side, arms wrapped around herself. A man I recognized as their family pastor sat near the window, hands folded. We're here to seek peace, the pastor said. I set the envelope on the desk and slid it forward. Start with truth, I said. Elias opened it. Read again. The room went silent. Leah shook her head. Tests can be wrong. Elias looked at her slowly. Not like this. I took my phone out and placed it next to the envelope, opened to a message thread, dates, hotels, times that overlapped with church retreats and late rehearsals. Grant's name sat there like a stain. I didn't hack anything, I said. She sent these to me herself, months ago. I just stopped ignoring them. The pastor cleared his throat. Perhaps this is something we discuss privately. Elias didn't look at him. Get Grant here. Leah's eyes widened. Dad. Now. She made the call with shaking fingers. I stood up. I won't stay. Elias nodded. You don't have to. As I turned to leave, he spoke again. She said a real man would raise another man's child, he said quietly. I paused. Yes, I said. She did. Elias closed the envelope. Then she has misunderstood what real men do. Behind me, the front door opened. Grant had arrived. Grant came in smiling like he always did, already mid-performance. He didn't even look at Leah at first. His eyes went to Elias, then to me, calculating angles the way some people calculate exits during a fire. Elias, he said warmly. I didn't realize this was a family meeting. Elias stood, slowly. The chair legs scraped the floor, loud in the quiet room. Sit, he said. Grant hesitated just long enough to tell me he was scared, then sat. Leah moved closer to him without thinking. Instinct, habit, loyalty built on a lie. Elias didn't raise his voice. That was the worst part. How long? He asked. Grant blinked. I'm not sure what you... How long? Elias repeated. Have you been involved with my married daughter? Grant glanced at Leah. She shook her head, barely noticeable. Don't say it. Elias, Grant said, this isn't the place. Elias slid the envelope across the desk. Read. Grant didn't touch it. He didn't need to. He already knew what was inside. Leah found her voice. Dad, Cal is twisting things. He's always been jealous, controlling. I laughed quietly. Couldn't help it. Jealous? I said. You hid hotel receipts in our tax folder. Grant stood up too fast. This is getting hostile. Elias pointed at the chair. Sit. Down. Grant sat. Elias turned to me. You said there was more. I nodded and pulled out my phone. Not theatrically. Just enough. Sunday nights, I said. You told me you were exhausted from rehearsal. You said Grant stayed late to counsel volunteers. Grant swallowed. I manage facilities for the community center, I went on. I see booking logs. I see access times. I see which rooms get locked from the inside. Leah whispered my name. A warning. A plea. I never checked, I said, until you forced me to. I scrolled. Dates, times, patterns. Not flashy, just undeniable. Elias closed his eyes. You used my church, he said to Grant. My donors. My trust. Grant leaned forward. I love her. That did it. Elias opened his eyes again, cold and precise. You will leave, now. You will not return to this house. You will not step on church property until I decide what happens next. Grant looked at Leah. She didn't move. I said now, Elias added. Grant stood. His shoulders brushed mine as he passed. For a second, he leaned close. This isn't over, he whispered. I met his eyes. No, I said. It's just starting to hurt. Outside, night had settled in thick and damp. Grant headed for the driveway, his car parked near the side entrance. I followed at a distance, not running, never chasing. Chasing gives people power. He reached his car and stopped. The front tire was hugged tight by a bright yellow boot. He stared at it, confused, then angry. What the hell is this? He snapped, spinning around. I held up my phone. Private property, unauthorized access, tow request logged. He took a step toward me. You did this? No, I said. You did. I just filled out the form. His face went red. You think this makes you tough? No, I said. I think this makes you late. From inside the house, voices rose. Elias, Leah, cracks spreading. Grant lunged forward suddenly, shoving me in the chest. Not hard enough to drop me, hard enough to make a point. I stumbled back, caught myself on the railing. "Touch me again," I said evenly, "and this becomes a different night." He raised his hand. I slapped him, once, flat palm, sharp sound, nothing cinematic, nothing heroic. He froze, stunned more by the audacity than the pain. "You don't get to put your hands on me," I said. "Ever." A security car rolled slowly down the drive. Elias must have called ahead. Grant stepped back, breathing fast, eyes darting. "Get the boot off my car," he barked at the guard. The guard shook his head. "You'll need the release form." Grant looked at me like he wanted to say something unforgettable. "You no longer exist to her." I smiled. I already was. I walked away before he could say anything else. The next morning, my boss called me into her office. Her name was Rena. She didn't waste time. "I got a complaint," she said, "about misuse of access, cameras, locks." I nodded. I figured. She raised an eyebrow. "You're not even going to deny it?" "No," I said. "I'm going to explain it." I handed her a folder. Emails, requests, Leah's name all over them, dates going back months. "Every access I made," I said, "was at my wife's request, in writing." Rena flipped through the pages, slower now. "And the garage gate?" she asked. "Safety procedure," I said. "Manual override, logged." She leaned back. "Grant Halden filed the complaint." "Of course he did." Rena sighed. "You're cleared." My phone buzzed as I stood to leave. Unknown number, photo attached, my front door, open. The timestamp said 3 minutes ago. I didn't call anyone. I didn't run. I drove. I knew something was wrong before I shut off the engine. The hallway light was on. I always turned it off. Not because of money, because habits survive longer than marriages. I stayed in the car and watched the door, counted to 30, then 60. Let my pulse slow down until my thoughts lined up again. Panic makes people brave in stupid ways. Calm makes them careful. I called Tomas. "I'm outside my place," I said quietly. "Front door was open 3 minutes ago. I'm not going in alone." "On my way," he said. No questions. That's why I liked him. I stepped out of the car and stayed on the sidewalk, phone in my hand, camera on. If this turned into a story, I wanted footnotes. The door creaked when the wind pushed it, just enough to tell me someone hadn't closed it properly. Someone rushed. I didn't shout, didn't announce myself. I angled the camera toward the entrance and waited. A shadow moved inside. Then Grant stepped out. He froze when he saw me, like a kid caught sneaking out of a neighbor's pool. His jacket was half zipped. My folder was tucked under his arm. "Put it down," I said. He laughed, breathless. "You're really committed to this villain thing, huh?" "That's my paperwork," I said. "You don't want to be holding it." He took a step closer. "You think Elias is going to burn the church down for you? He's protecting the institution." "Then you shouldn't have broken into my house," I said. He stopped. That word landed. "Breaking in is a crime," I added, "especially when the doorbell camera catches you fumbling the lock for 20 seconds. His eyes flicked upward. Too late. He bolted. Not toward the street, toward the side yard, hopping the low fence like he'd already planned the route. I didn't chase him. I followed at a distance, filming, narrating quietly into the phone like a man documenting an animal he didn't want to startle. Thomas's cruiser slid in from the corner, lights off but unmistakable. Grant saw it and stumbled, clipped his foot on the curb, went down hard. Not dramatic, just messy. Thomas had him pinned in seconds. No punches, just leverage and gravity. Grant yelled, "This is harassment! He set me up!" I walked closer and crouched so we were eye level. "You came into my house," I said calmly. "You took documents. You ran." He spit on the pavement, missed me by a foot. Thomas cuffed him. As they lifted him, Grant twisted his head toward me. "She's still choosing me." I smiled. "Not tonight." Inside the house, drawers were pulled out, papers scattered. My life reduced to a bad rummage sale. I picked up the folder he'd dropped. At the top was the eviction notice. Under that, the paternity results. Under that, something I didn't expect. A printed email, sent months ago, from Leah to Grant. Subject line, backup plan. I sat on the couch and read it slowly. She'd laid it all out. If Elias found out, if Cal snapped, if the church turned, Grant wasn't the safety net, her parents were, and she planned to play them against each other until someone blinked. I felt something shift in my chest, not anger, precision. My phone buzzed. Leah. I let it ring. Then another call, then a text. Please answer, he's gone too far. Dad won't talk to me, you won. I stood up and walked to the door, closed it, locked it, checked the camera feed one more time. Then I typed back, meet me tomorrow, bring your parents, bring the truth. The next evening, the church hall was full of polite voices and expensive coats. Donor night. The kind of gathering where reputations were currency and smiles were armor. I stood near the back, hands in my pockets, watching Leah pace near the front. Her parents sat stiffly in the first row. Elias hadn't looked at her once. Grant wasn't there. Good. When Elias stepped up to the microphone, the room quieted. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't pray. There's been a breach of trust, he said, and it involves my family. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Leah turned, eyes wide. She hadn't expected this. She'd thought this was reconciliation theater. I walked forward and stopped beside the stage. Elias nodded at me. I handed him the folder. He opened it, held it up. Not the results, just the cover. This ends tonight, he said. Leah rushed toward him. Dad, please. Elias raised a hand. She stopped like she'd hit glass. He looked at the room, at the donors, at the people who'd clapped for Grant's sermons and nodded at Leah's charity posts. My daughter told her husband a real man would raise another man's child, Elias said. Tonight, she learns what real men actually do. I didn't look at Leah. I looked at the exit, because when the room exploded into whispers and gasps and the careful collapse of polite society, I was already walking away. And I didn't look back. The parking lot was almost empty when I stepped outside. That's the thing about public disgrace. It makes people forget logistics. Everyone was still inside, whispering, choosing sides, pretending they were shocked, even though they'd smelled the rot for months. No one followed me. No one ever does when the story stops being entertaining and starts becoming real. My phone vibrated again. Leah. I didn't answer. I walked to my car, opened the door, then stopped. Something was tucked under the windshield wiper. White paper. Folded once. Careless. I unfolded it. You don't get to walk away like this. No name. No number. Just pressure. Grant wasn't done. I drove without music, letting the city slide past in streaks of sodium light. I didn't go home. I went somewhere quieter. Somewhere Grant wouldn't expect me to choose because it didn't look like a battleground. The storage facility. Grant kept a unit there. I knew because Leah once complained about how much church junk he hoarded. Old stage props, donated furniture, boxes of things people trusted him to store because he was safe. I parked across the street and waited. 10 minutes later, his car rolled in. He got out fast, shoulders tight, keys already in his hand. Panic does that. It turns preparation into instinct. He didn't look around, didn't notice me. I followed him inside, far enough back that my footsteps blended with the hum of the lights. He unlocked the unit and slid the door up. Inside were boxes stacked neatly, labeled, organized. The illusion of control. Grant turned and jumped when he saw me. "What the hell are you doing here?" he snapped. "Same thing you are," I said. "Closing accounts?" He laughed, sharp and ugly. "You think Elias burned me?" He paused me. "That's all. Churches forgive." "People forgive," I said. "Institutions replace." He stepped toward me. "You ruined my life." "No," I said. I interrupted your pattern. He swung at me, not a clean punch. Desperate. I leaned back, felt his knuckles graze my shoulder, close enough to smell him, sweat and cheap cologne. I stepped forward and grabbed his shirt, shoved him back into the metal shelving. The boxes rattled. "One," I said quietly. "That's all you get." He stared at me, breathing hard. "I can still talk," he said. "I can still tell people things about you." "That's why this ends now," I said. I reached into the unit and pulled out the box I'd already spotted, the one marked Financials. I didn't open it. I tipped it. Folders spilled across the concrete. Donation lists, receipts, names, amounts. Not illegal. Worse, hypocritical. "You kept copies," I said. "Because you don't trust anyone, including yourself." He lunged for the papers. I stepped on them. "Don't," I said. He froze. I crouched down, picked up one folder, and slid it into my jacket. "This," I said, "is leverage." He slumped against the wall, defeated not by force, but by inevitability. "You can't do this," he whispered. "I already did," I said. I left him there, sitting on the floor of his own secrets. The next morning, Leah showed up at my door. No warning, no text, just knocking. Hard. I opened it enough to see her face. Red eyes, makeup smeared, hair pulled back like she was going to court or confession, whichever came first. "You destroyed everything," she said. I looked past her, empty street, no audience. "Come inside," I said. She hesitated, then stepped in like the house might reject her. She paced, couldn't sit, couldn't stand still. "Grant won't answer," she said. "My dad cut me off. The church blocked my access to the accounts. I have nothing." I leaned against the counter. "You have exactly what you built." She rounded on me. "You wanted revenge. You got it." "No," I said. "I wanted the truth to be louder than you." She laughed hysterically. "You think this makes you better?" "I don't care," I said. She stepped closer. "A real man." I held up my hand. She stopped mid-sentence. "Don't," I said. "That line is closed." She looked at me then. Really looked. And for the first time, she understood something. This wasn't about punishment. This was about removal. "I need help," she said quietly. I nodded once. "Not from me." Her phone buzzed. She checked it and went pale. "What?" I asked. She swallowed. "Grant's been suspended. They found the storage unit." I smiled, just a little. She stared at me. "You planned all of this?" "No," I said. I responded. She sank onto the couch. I opened the door and held it. When she stood to leave, she stopped beside me. "You'll regret this," she said weakly. I met her eyes. "No, you will." She walked out. I closed the door, locked it, and for the first time since the vitamins hit the bowl, the house was quiet again. The quiet didn't last. It never does when people realize they've lost control. 2 days passed without a word from Grant or Leah. Long enough for rumors to finish fermenting. Long enough for donors to start asking questions that couldn't be answered with smiles and scripture quotes. Long enough for desperation to mature into something reckless. I was at work when it happened. Facilities office, basement level, the kind of room no one notices until something breaks. I was halfway through a maintenance log when Rena stepped in without knocking. "You have company," she said. Her tone told me everything. Grant stood in the hallway behind her, jacket wrinkled, hair uncombed. No stage smile, no confidence, just raw nerve and entitlement, stripped of polish. "I asked him to wait outside," Rena said. "He didn't." "That tracks," I said, standing. Rena crossed her arms. 5 minutes. She left us alone. Grant wasted no time. "You stole from me." "I borrowed," I said. "You broke into my house. That evens things out." He stepped closer. Too close. The air around him buzzed with panic. "You think donors care about spreadsheets?" he hissed. "They care about stories. And I have one." I tilted my head. "You always did." "You were unstable," he continued. Jealous, obsessive. I helped Leah escape you. I laughed, short and sharp. You helped her lie better. He slammed his palm against the wall, not hard enough to hurt himself, just loud. You don't get to win, he said. People like you don't. People like me, I said calmly. Keep records. I pulled out my phone and held it up, not showing him the screen, just enough to remind him it existed. Every time you contacted me, I said. Every time you showed up where you weren't invited. Every time you touched me or my property. It's all logged. His face drained. You wouldn't, he said. I already did, I said. I just haven't pressed send. He stared at me, breathing unevenly, then laughed. A broken sound. You think this makes you powerful? No, I said. It makes you careful. He leaned in one last time. She's carrying my child. That's your problem, I said, not my obligation. Rena stepped back into the doorway. Time's up, she said. Grant glared at me as he backed away. This isn't finished. I met his eyes. It ends when you stop. He left. That evening, I got the call I'd been expecting. Elias. His voice sounded older, not weak, just tired. I need you to come by, he said. There are things I need to close. I'm not interested in reconciliation, I said. I know, he replied. That's why I'm calling. I arrived just after dark. The house felt different, less like a fortress, more like a courtroom after hours. Elias sat at the same desk, no pastor this time, no Leah. I cut her off, he said without preamble. Financially, socially, completely. I nodded once. Not satisfaction, confirmation. Grant tried to frame this as persecution, Elias continued. But he kept too much, like you said. He slid a folder across the desk. Thinner than mine, cleaner. I want that box back, he said. I want this buried correctly. I thought about it, about leverage, about endings. I'll return it, I said. After tomorrow. Elias frowned. Tomorrow? There's one loose end, I said. He still thinks he can rewrite the ending. Elias studied me, then nodded. Very well. As I stood to leave, he spoke again. She asked me why I chose you over her. I paused. What did you say? I asked. I told her, Elias said quietly, that you didn't ask me to choose. Outside, the night felt cooler, sharper. My phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. Meet me. Warehouse district. Midnight. Come alone. Grant always did love dramatic lighting. I didn't reply. I just drove. The warehouse sat half abandoned, floodlights humming, shadows stretched long across cracked asphalt. I parked where the cameras would see me and got out slowly. Grant was already there. He looked smaller, without an audience. You came, he said. Don't flatter yourself, I replied. This ends tonight. He laughed bitterly. You don't have the guts to finish it. I stepped closer, close enough that he could see there was nothing left to negotiate. I don't need guts, I said. I need witnesses. Lights flicked on. Cars rolled in. Elias's driver, 2 donors. Tomas standing off to the side, arms crossed. Grant turned, panic flaring. What is this? He demanded. I held up the folder. An intervention. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I dropped the folder at his feet. Walk away, I said. Quietly. Permanently. Grant looked around. At the faces that no longer believed in him. He took a step back, then another, and ran. I didn't chase him. I watched him disappear into the dark, alone with the version of himself no one would protect anymore. When I turned back, Elias nodded once. That was it. I got in my car and drove away. No music, no victory speech, just the road, stretching clean and empty ahead. The city looked different after midnight. Honest, in a way it never was during daylight. Fewer masks, fewer witnesses, just concrete sodium lights and consequences still warm from the day. I didn't go home. I went to the place where stories go to finish bleeding. The diner sat off the highway, half lit, always open, never curious. Vinyl booths cracked with age. Coffee that tasted like it had opinions. I slid into a corner booth and ordered nothing. I wasn't hungry. Hunger implies need. I was past that. My phone finally rang. Leah. I let it ring until it stopped. Then again. Then a third time. On the fourth, I answered. Say it, I said. Her voice broke immediately. They won't talk to me. I know. They canceled my cards. My mom changed the gate code. Dad told me to stop using the family name. I know. Silence stretched. Then, Grant disappeared. That surprised me. Just a little. He didn't disappear, I said. He just stopped being protected. She swallowed audibly. You did this. No, I said. You built it. I removed the supports. She laughed weakly. You sound like a villain. I am, I said. In your story. She took a breath. I'm scared. I stared at the coffee-stained table, at a carved heart with initials that had probably meant something once. You should be, I said. The line went silent. I stayed in the booth for another 10 minutes, long enough to let the adrenaline finish burning, long enough to decide what came next. The next morning, Grant tried one last move. Not dramatic, not public, private, desperate. A mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot. Grant had posted in a closed donor group, carefully worded, implying coercion, emotional instability. Safety concerns. I read it once, then again. Then I smiled, because panic makes people forget who's been quiet on purpose. I forwarded the post to Elias, along with timestamps, along with a single line, he's escalating. Elias replied 5 minutes later, so are we. That afternoon, the church released a statement, not naming Grant, not accusing, just indefinite separation pending internal review, the kind of sentence that ends careers slowly and thoroughly. Grant messaged me within the hour. You're enjoying this, I typed back. No, I'm finishing it. He didn't respond. Instead, he showed up, at my workplace, again. This time, security stopped him at the door. I watched through the glass as he argued, hands moving too fast, voice rising. People stared. Phones came out. He saw me watching. He went still. I stepped outside. Last chance, I said. You leave now and this ends quietly. He laughed. Too loud. You don't get to decide that. I nodded. You're right. I stepped aside and let Rena walk past me. She handed Grant a printed notice. Trespass warning, formal, boring, devastating. If you return, she said, we call the police. This is your only notice. Grant looked at me, eyes burning. She chose me. I leaned in, low enough that no one else could hear. She chose comfort, I said. You were just furniture. Something in him collapsed. He turned and walked away. That night, I packed the last of Leah's things into boxes and stacked them by the door. Not neatly, not cruelly. Just finished. Her parents' driver arrived to collect them. Didn't look at me. Didn't need to. The house felt larger without her noise in it, quieter, like it had exhaled. I stood in the doorway for a long time after the driver left. Then my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number, a single photo. Grant's car, parked crooked, window shattered, nothing else touched. I stared at it, then typed back. Don't confuse chaos with strength. No reply came. I deleted the thread. I locked the door. And for the first time since the bowl held more than keys, I slept without dreaming. By morning, the city had already moved on. That's the lie people tell themselves, that public collapses linger. They don't. They spike, trend, then dissolve into trivia. What stays are the private consequences. The ones that wake you up at odd hours and make you check locks you never checked before. I was halfway through my coffee when the knock came. Not pounding, not polite. Precise. 3 taps. I didn't look through the peephole. I already knew. Grant stood on the porch with a duffel bag at his feet. No jacket, no smile. Just exhaustion pulled tight across his face. The kind that comes from realizing you're out of places to land. "I need 5 minutes," he said. "You already used them," I replied. He swallowed. "I'm leaving town." "Good. I just need one thing back." I waited. "The folder," he said. "The copies. Whatever you kept." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Didn't invite him in. Never give ground you've already reclaimed. "You don't need them," I said. "You need distance." He laughed softly. "You think this ends because you embarrassed me?" I leaned closer, low enough that only he could hear. "This ended when you walked into my house," I said. "Everything after that is just accounting." His hands clenched, unclenched. "You slapped me," he said, like it was a revelation. "You broke into my life," I answered. "Perspective matters." He looked past me, at the quiet street, at the houses where people were starting their mornings, unaware they'd almost been a backdrop to his final mistake. "She still loves me," he said. I shook my head. "She loves exits." Something in his face hardened, not anger, resolve, the dangerous kind that comes when pride decides it has nothing left to lose. "She told me something," he said. "About you." I waited. "That you'd never actually pull the trigger," he continued. "That you like control more than endings." I smiled. She misunderstands me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, opened one screen, didn't show him the details. "Last night," I said, "I sent copies to 3 people who don't care about redemption. They care about insulation, liability, distance." His breath hitched. "You won't hear from them," I went on. "You won't know what they decided. You'll just feel doors stop opening." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. "That's the folder," I said. "It's already everywhere it needs to be." Grant stared at me for a long time. Then he nodded once. "Fine," he said. "You win." "No," I said. "I conclude." He picked up his bag, walked to his car, drove away without looking back. I watched until the street was empty again. That afternoon, Leah tried one last time. She didn't call. She showed up. I saw her through the window before she knocked, standing stiff, hands folded, wearing a coat she didn't need. Armor. I opened the door. She looked at me like she was trying to memorize a version of me that no longer existed. "I'm staying with a friend," she said. "Just for a while." I nodded. "Good." "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she said. "Do what?" "End me." I considered that, then shook my head. "I didn't end you," I said. "I stopped protecting you from yourself." She flinched. "You enjoyed this?" "No," I said. "I respected it." She laughed bitterly. "You sound like my father." "That's because," I said, "we both finally stopped lying." Silence stretched between us, not hostile, just empty. She stepped back. "I hope you're happy." I looked at the house, at the quiet, at the bowl by the door with nothing in it but keys. "I'm finished," I said. "That's better." She turned to leave, then paused. "The baby," she started. I raised a hand. "That story doesn't belong to me," I said. "Pick a different audience." She nodded once, like someone accepting a verdict, and walked away. I closed the door, locked it, checked the light switch in the hallway, turned it off. The house settled around me, solid and honest, finally mine again. And that was where it ended. The final call came just after sunset. Not from Leah, not from Grant, from Elias. "I need you here," he said. "Now." No explanation, no tone, just finality. I drove. The church parking lot was full again. Donor cars, committee cars, the kind of crowd that only gathers when something expensive is about to be decided. Floodlights washed the building in white, turning the stone facade into something harsh and exposed. Inside see-through walls, people were standing, not chatting, waiting. I walked in without being announced, every head turned. Grant was there, so was Leah. They stood on opposite sides of the room, not touching, not even looking at each other. Like two defendants who had already been told the verdict but were still hoping for a mistrial. Elias stood at the front, a folder in his hands. Not mine. Thicker. "This is not a discussion," he said to the room. "This is a closure." Grant opened his mouth. Elias didn't look at him. "Effective immediately," Elias continued. "All affiliations are terminated. Access revoked, support withdrawn." Grant stepped forward. "You can't—" Elias turned then. "Finally." "I already did." Grant looked around, at donors who wouldn't meet his eyes, at men who had once shaken his hand and now pretended their phones were fascinating. He laughed once, loud, cracked. "You're choosing him?" he said, pointing at me. Elias didn't hesitate. "I'm choosing the truth." Grant lunged, not at Elias, at me. It wasn't a fight, it was a mistake. Security moved faster than emotion ever does, hands on shoulders, weight, floor, Grant shouting my name like it might still mean something. Leah screamed. I didn't move. I watched Grant get lifted, dragged, carried past the glass doors where cameras waited patiently. His shoes scraped. His dignity went first. As the doors closed behind him, the room exhaled. Leah turned to me, eyes wild. "Say something." I stepped closer, close enough that only she could hear. "You told me a real man would raise another man's child," I said quietly. "I told you I wasn't one." I took a step back. "That," I added, "was the last thing I owed you." Elias nodded to the room. People started filing out, already rewriting the night into something survivable. I didn't wait. I walked out while they were still processing the sound of Grant's name turning into a warning. Outside, the air was cold and clean. I stood at the edge of the parking lot and watched Grant's car get towed away, headlights swinging uselessly as it disappeared down the road. Then I turned, got into my car, and drove off, while everything behind me finally collapsed into silence.